Welcome everybody to the first Malware Club meeting of the year. I'm Dr. Bramwell Brizendine. I'm a professor here at DSU. I teach reverse engineering malware analysis. Some of you maybe had me in class or may be in class with me right now, but a lot of you probably don't know me. This is the second year of the Malware Club. So last year was the first year during COVID, of course. Let's turn the volume up. Last year we had a much smaller membership, and it was primarily, well, exclusively all online. So this is the first year that we're doing things in person. And we have right here Evan Reed, who is our vice president, and then Odin Bernstein, which you see over there on the screen, is the club president. So Evan, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Evan Reed. I'm a second year student here at DSU, technically second year. I'm a transfer from a community college out in Kansas, and I'm in my master's program for cyber defense currently. But I was with Brizendine last year in the malware analysis class and absolutely loved it. So I participated in the club, and now you see me here.
And Odin, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Odin. I'm the current president of the Malware Club. I recently graduated from DSU with a bachelor's in cyber operations, as well as a minor in computer forensics. I have worked on a couple of grants here at DSU related to malware. One grant I actually worked on with Dr. Brizendine. It was a grant where we had to develop a curriculum related to malware analysis. And then the other grant that I am still working on part-time is with Dr. Joshua Stroshine, and it's we're like building a framework for malware analysis, basically automating some of the static and dynamic analysis techniques, and also using like some threat intelligence feeds, and also like correlation of different samples. So it's a very interesting project. Currently, I'm also working full-time at Aon Cyber Solutions.
And in addition to that, not only one grant or two grants, but Odin also had a third grant. He had a personal grant that he got himself, $500 SRI grant, where he analyzed evasion techniques against antivirus products. And he spent several months working on that and did some excellent work. So Odin's somebody who has a lot of experience with malware analysis, both the hands-on working with Josh Stroshine and also developing curriculum for the NSA. He's done some really amazing just hands-on tutorial videos. So I think we'll be very lucky to have him present some of what he will be presenting. So what we're going to be talking about today is going to be malicious Office documents. And how many have heard of a maldoc before? Raise your hand. So a fairly good number of people, and this is really kind of a perfect way to distribute malware. It's an initial means to disseminate it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the maldoc?
Yeah, sure. So as you heard from the doctor over here, it's an extremely popular way for malware to get into companies these days, because they either really get in through the malware, the maldoc itself, or they get in through some kind of brand new exploit that has been patched yet, that the systems administrators aren't just catching up on yet. But the maldocs usually use macros or like the VBA macros to either pull malware from the internet or open up a file and directly write to it. Sometimes they hold the entire thing within them, and sometimes it's just fully online.
So that's what we'll be looking at primarily today, is the maldoc, what it is, just kind of pulling it apart, analyzing it. So maldoc is an Office document, and it's actually, technically it's a zip file, and you can go in there and pull out all these different streams, and then you can analyze them and see the VBA code that he was talking about, the Visual Basic, and a lot of it does a lot of really sneaky things. It uses a great deal of obfuscation to just kind of hide and obscure what it's doing. But if you know a little bit about it and have a little bit of experience, you can pull it apart and figure out what it's doing. So any other things you want to say about the maldoc?
No, not.
Okay, Odin, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, sure. So just making sure, can everybody see my screen okay, the PowerPoint screen? Is that visible to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do, just in advance, is if everybody could create a snapshot for both their Flare machine and their Remnex machine. I think a lot of you signed up today, so you might not have VApps pushed out to you, but for those who don't, you can just watch
Can you show
today.
them where to get it?
Oh, yeah, I will do that. But yeah, and then, I will, for those who do have VApps, I will now show you how to get into the IA lab and create snapshots. So let me just share my screen here.
So one of the reasons why we're having you do this is just so you can follow along. And if you want to actually look at the actual malware yourself, you can do that. And you can copy what you see on the screen. So it can be very hands-on.
So just so everybody's aware, you go to ialab.dsu.edu, and then you click right here where it says projects. And then you enter your DSU credentials. So you will see, if you have the VApp pushed out to you, you should see that there is a Remnex machine as well as a Flare machine. You're going to want to go to Snapshot and then create Snapshot for both your Remnex machine and your Flare VM machine.
And some people might not have this yet, as we were just deploying them this afternoon. So with new club signups and stuff, you may not have it. And just to be sure, you might want to fill that out, that form out online on the site if you haven't gotten it yet, just to ensure that we have your name and email address.
Yes, and the next PowerPoint slide that I'll be showing has the sign up form. So if you're not already signed up, it will allow you to sign up. And then also, if you do have the VApp installed, you can go to VApp, and then you'll want to go to it will have your name and then Malware Club, and then you want to do power. You want to start. Mine's already powered on, but you'll want to do power on just to make sure that's all started up in time for our demo. All right, so now I'll go back to the PowerPoint.
Anybody needs help, raise their hand.
Just a second, I'm just going to share this. Okay. All right, so now, yeah, like I was saying, if you're not already signed up, here's the form that you can sign up with. And then this will allow you to see all club related emails, and it will allow you to get the VApp pushed out to you for the next meeting. And also you can join the malware channel in Slack. So you would go to the DSU Slack, which is kernelpoppers.slack.com. And if you're not already signed up, you can sign up with your DSU email. And so I will give everyone just a minute if they haven't already filled this out.
If we put our name on the sign up list at the career fair today, do we have to fill out the form?
Oh, good question. No, if you already signed up at today's fair, then you're already on the mailing list. And if you got any email today talking about this today's meeting, then you're already on the mailing list as well.
Alrighty, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so I'm gonna proceed now. Okay, and so as we all introduced ourselves, but I'm Odin, I'm the president, and then Evan and Bramwell already introduced themselves before. So let's go a little bit into what we'll be doing throughout the year as a club. So the main focus that I want to have in this club is live malware analysis of different malicious programs. So this will be in the form of walkthroughs, and also I want to make it more interactive. So as club members, you'll also have the opportunity to analyze the malware yourself. So part of the meetings will be guided by me, and then for a part of the meetings, I'll give you an exercise, and you'll have the opportunity to analyze a malware sample yourself. This can be done either in groups or independently. We do encourage that you work in groups to make it a more collaborative environment. But the main focus we want to have is analyzing malicious samples, but we will get into some other topics as well. So some days will be dedicated to learning a specific topic in the malware analysis fields. Some examples of these are creating YARA rules, obfuscation, looking at different packing techniques, looking at different debuggers, disassemblers, and I know maybe a lot of you don't quite know what these things are yet, but that's okay, because throughout the semester we'll be explaining this in more detail. You'll also have the opportunity, if you want, to do independent research. This is pretty open-ended. You can it could be as simple as looking at a malware sample independently outside of the club. And then if you find anything interesting, you can share it with the club. You're welcome to present, although you don't have to present. So it could be as simple as analyzing a malware sample, or you can present a malware-related tool. Also, some of the topics that we'll be covering throughout the year might inspire you to look into doing some further research. And so the topics we cover, the idea is for it to increase in difficulty. Probably for the first few meetings, we'll just be going over some more introductory malware topics, just for the people who haven't seen malware before. We'll start by looking at some delivery mechanisms. Today, as Bramwell and Evan mentioned, we're going to be analyzing a malicious Word doc. We might also be looking at some different delivery mechanisms such as JavaScript, PHP, potentially Python. We might also look at Excel 4 documents. And then later in the year, we want to get more advanced, like reversing actual malware samples. So like reversing the actual binary, the executable file, like using a disassembler and such as IDA, and then using some debuggers. And that's where, as far as the semester progresses, and this club will be for the whole year, but I do want to, by the end of this semester, have us analyzing malware, like analyzing malicious binaries.
And just to interject here for a second. So he did
Sure.
also mention if people are doing research, and we just want to emphasize, if there's somebody out there that's really in love with malware, reverse engineering, and you come up with something really cool and awesome, and you want to come up here to the big stage and share it with everybody, we definitely welcome that, whether it's a 10 or 20-minute presentation or you go the full time.
Yes, so definitely open to students presenting if they want to, and to students doing research, although it's optional, but we definitely would encourage it. And so here are some of our some potential topic ideas that I've thought of. We won't get to cover everything we won't get to cover everything, but here are just some ideas. As mentioned, we want to look at some delivery mechanisms. I think I already mentioned those. And then we also want to look at in-depth and static analysis of different malware families and different types of malware. We might look at Trojans, keyloggers, ransomware, crypto miners, credential stealers, like malware along that line. And we want to do like static analysis of the binary itself. We'll also have, as mentioned, different days dedicated to analyzing malware topics. One, for example, writing YAR rules, looking at packers, debuggers, just days where we explore certain tools and processes that are important in malware analysis, essentially. And then more advanced topics, we have time, we might look into these. So one that I would really want to look into is bypassing like anti-analysis techniques. So often malware can detect if it's in a virtualized environment, which can make the job of a malware analyst a lot more difficult. So just finding ways to thwart the malware's anti-analysis detection. And then we might look into analyzing shellcode, persistence methods. We might look at reversing malware intended for other operating systems such as Linux. And we might look into more advanced malware obfuscation. We won't be able to cover all these techniques as mentioned, but these are just some ideas. As mentioned, the main focus that I want to have is analysis of actual malicious programs. And each week, I would like to describe some recent trends in malware. So I found one here, and so the lock file ransomware is using like a new type of encryption method to avoid detection by ransomware protection solutions, as well as antivirus solutions and IDS solutions. So what it does is it encrypts every other 16 bytes of a file. So it will so the first 16 bytes be unencrypted, then the next 16 bytes are encrypted, and so on. And this makes it look similar enough to the original, makes it look like similar enough to the original file that ransomware protection solutions that look for encrypted files won't detect that the files have been encrypted, since it looks similar enough, but it is still unreadable to the end user. And then also after that, the binary it's very stealthy, so it will delete itself after encrypting all the files, and then this makes it a lot more difficult for malware analysts to know what's happening, and for incident responders to know what happened on the system, essentially. So the next thing we want to do is analyzing going through a demo to analyze a malicious Word doc. I do want to pause here, though, if anyone has any questions about what I just covered. Okay, so we will proceed.
Hold on, Alden.
Oh,
So this is going to be mainly limited to Windows malware for the first part of this, I assume?
Yes, it will be. There will be more of a Windows malware focus, but we might later on branch into some different types of malware, including possibly Mac OS malware, Linux malware, Android malware. I also do plan on sending some type of form to club members, so you can decide maybe which topics you'd be more interested in, and then we can also plan our meetings based on interest on different topics. But for now, I would say yes, we're mostly sticking to Windows-based malware.
And we did do a couple on Mac OS last year, so you never know.
Yes, yes, our previous president, Micah, did a couple of days dedicated to looking at a Mac OS based malware strain.
Any other questions? No questions, Odin.
Okay, so I will just briefly, so first I'm going to just briefly show you how to download the different malware samples from, so we have a drive up, so I'm just going to walk through that process of downloading the different samples. You should see, so you should be in the projects for the VApps, and by now, your snapshots should have all been created. So we're going to want to download, the malware sample onto 2 different VMs because Evan, I believe you're going to you're going to show the malware on the Remnex environment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to want to download it onto both Remnex and to the Flare VM.
Hey, Evan, could you tell us what is Flare VM and what is Remnex?
Yeah, so Remnix is a malware analysis toolkit Linux distro. So it already pre-contains like all the tools you should reasonably need for most versions of malware analysis. All of them are free also though, so it's not like you're going to find a free copy of IDA Pro on there or anything, sadly. And then for Flare, it's another one just like that, but it's a Windows version. So it has different things like Process Hacker and Sysmon and stuff ready to be enabled on it. And so these are kind of the building blocks of like Malware Club and Malware Analysis class. Just those distros have all the tools on it that you should need.
Odin?
Okay, thank you, Evan. So you're going to want to go to this, you're going to want to go to, well, first, you'll have to actually log into the captive portal. So you would, for me, sometimes the IA Lab, if the IA Lab captive portal doesn't pop up for you, you can navigate to detectportal.firefox.
You can't see Captive Portal if you're on that screen.
Oh, okay, let me share this.
We just see the IA Lab main screen,
Oh,
the V cloud.
okay. All right, okay. All right, now it should be showing
That's good.
my VM.
And
So,
a good way to get to Captive Portal is just to type captive.apple.com.
yeah, that's another one you could do. You could do captive.apple.com. You could also do detectportal.firefox.com, and then it will prompt you with, I've already signed in, so it won't prompt me, but it will prompt you with your, it will tell you to sign in with your DSU credentials, and then you can just sign in. So I'll give everybody a moment to do that. Okay. And then once you've done that, you're going to want to navigate to drive.malware. So it's spelled MALWR.club. And then you'll see a list of folders. You want to click on this folder here, meeting 9/1. And then it will have 2 files here. You're going to want to download the one on the left, the 6973F, this file here. And then you're going to want to click here. You click save. And then on Remnex, what I do is you can do the unzip command and then the name of the file. And then it will ask you for the password. So the password is so it's MALWRCLUB.
You type that somewhere?
So I can also,
Could you type the password somewhere so people can see it?
yeah.
Download from Firefox directly to a downloads folder, because I've had it go somewhere else sometimes. Or the Firefox and Remix, does it download directly to the downloads folder? Because I've had it go to Firefox's own downloads folder sometimes. Usually, but could be other times. Yeah.
All right, and then after that's all done, you're going to want to also install it on Flare VM. So let me get that up for you. So next to your Remnex, you should see Flare, and I'm not sharing my screen yet, but I will in just a second.
So if you guys are trying to type in the drive.malware.com, you do it the drive and then .malware, and there's no E at the end. E is missing. And then so drive.malware.club.
And if anyone needs another, like a minute to download the previous sample, just let me know and I can pause for another minute.
Does anybody need to wait? We're good, Odin.
Okay, sounds good. So I believe since you've already authenticated.
Do you have
to the-
VMRC, Odin?
Oh, yeah, I can do VMRC. That might.
So one thing that if you have an opportunity, VMRC is just a much nicer experience. You want to tell them about VMRC?
Yeah, it's basically just a version of like the web one, but on your actual computer using VMware software. So in general, it runs like way smoother. There's less timeouts, there's less refreshes and stuff like that. Actually, there's normally no refreshes from my personal experience, like with the web console version.
So basically the web console version is absolute garbage. So try to do the VMRC if you can.
Okay, so since you're already signed in, you should be already authenticated to the captive portal. And then you just go again to drive.malware, MALWR.club, and you want to grab this file again. I've already downloaded it. And then here you can just go to extract.
So basically
here.
just doing the same thing in the Windows you did in the Linux
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah, you type the same password and then it will extract for you. So now I'm going to hand it over to Evan to look at the first part of our demo.
Thanks, Odin. It'll just be 1 second here while I get everything set up. Yeah, thank you.
Make the font a little bit bigger, or actually go and do the window up there. If you can, full screen. Oh yeah, up there. Does that do it? Can you make it bigger?
Is there a hotkey for that? Oh. Control plus. Nice. All right. Control plus. Sweet. Oh, it's a lot better. Barrett. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. So we're kind of kicking this off in Remnex, and we're going to be using a tool called OllyDump. And what OllyDump does, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, all right, cool.
Try your.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to move this a little closer real quick.
It's probably a way to make it louder.
Yeah, the cyber ops guy is at work here. Does that work? No, nope.
Try talking louder.
Does that work okay? Here we go. Yeah, it has to be right in front of your mouth. I can just switch between holding it and then.
Too much into your personal space.
I promise we'll have this figured out by next time. All right. So what we're going to do here is start off in OllyDump. And OllyDump can be used to analyze and pull the macro streams and other things from like malicious Office documents and malicious Excel files. It can be used on just regular files as well. But what we're using it for is just to try to find where those macros are, and so that we can pull them and then look at them. And so we'll start it off by just running OllyDump on the file itself to see where the macros are at. Everybody good there? Sweet. And so you'll see 3 different streams marked with M's. So this means these are the main streams that are using the macros in this document itself. And what we're going to do is go ahead and pull those streams and output them to well, I usually do a text file, but you can really do whatever kind of file you want. I just use text, and then I'll use Sublime to open them up and change the syntax to get a good overview of them. Yeah. Yeah, so in this command, you'll see that the S symbolizes the stream we're pulling, and then the V is for verbosity. And then that redirect, the little right triangle pointing, is for just the text file that I'm outputting it to. So you can leave it like that itself, or you can just put text at the end. It doesn't really matter as long as you open it up with a text editor. And then just go ahead. Sorry. And then just go ahead and do that for all 3 of them, just so you can take a whole look at it. And feel free to just change the names to whatever you want, but I just keep it like that to make it easier. And then when you're done, you should have 3 new files ready to be looked at. And I might give you all just a second to get that finished up. So this is just an example of one of the streams that was output from OllyDump. As you'll see, there's some VBA code in there and other references to different code streams you saw in the document. So that's a pretty good indicator that they're using those code streams as well. But from here on out, Odin will take the stage.
And by the way, if any of you guys want to like go into the Zoom, you can just mute yourself and mute your volume, but you could ask questions in chat too if you're not comfortable asking in person. And we're just transitioning over here just a second or two. Odin's done a kind of a deep analysis of this, so he'll be. Can you make your font bigger when you get in there, Odin? For whatever you're muted, Odin.
Okay, sorry about that. Gonna open, so going to open a text editor called Sublime. Sublime is very helpful when analyzing malware. It does include built-in syntax highlighting for VBS macros. That's very helpful. See, I'm not sure if I have those here or if I have to, I think I might have to create those, so. So I'm just going to run ollie dump on those streams again and get the files. So.
You got to make your font a little bit bigger, Odin.
Oh, okay. You mean like on the command prompt?
Yeah, right there.
Okay. I'll
Maybe
just
make
mark
VMRC bigger, make it full screen.
it. Okay.
But even still, you're gonna have to make it bigger. Go into,
Properties.
yeah, make it like 20. That's too big, like maybe 24. Let's try that. Whatever you have there.
How's that for everybody?
Bigger, anybody? Okay, it's good.
Okay. Alrighty, so we're going to run. So the first thing we have to do is run ollie dump again on, because now we're in a different VM. So to run ollie dump again. And this will show you all the streams. So these are the 3 streams that we need, as Evan showed you before. So you just use these commands. So it's S and then so S is for stream. So then it selects the stream for you. And then the V option decompresses it. And then you can write that to a file. I'm just going to call it stream11.vbs. And then we just have to do that for the other 2. Alrighty. So let's open all 3 of those streams. All right, so. So the entry point of this macro is in stream 12. And you know that.
Do the
because-
syntax, Odin.
Yeah, I'm wondering why that's not
Go to view and
Yeah.
syntax,
view.
and then do ASP up at the top, and then ASP.
Oh, okay.
It didn't do it.
Oh,
There we
there it
go.
goes. Okay, thank you, Bramwell. So, and I'll do that for the other ones too. Do that for this one. Syntax, ASP. And is the text kind of small? Does it need to be larger?
Yeah, make it bigger.
Okay. All right, so this is the entry point of the macro code, and you know that because document open is the function that will start the macro. So then we have a function being called here, and for the other variables, calling a function. We will look at that function in just a second. But then here you see the malware is running a command. So it's running, so this runs a command on the command prompt. Other appears to be maybe a file name possibly. And then this here seems to be, oftentimes malware will make use of a sort of like key when in the on the command line. Malware will often take arguments, and this is basically just so it will only run if the right key is supplied. So this would prevent if someone were to get access maybe to just the executable file, but they didn't have this key here, or if they then they wouldn't be able to analyze the malware. So this is the buffer2 file. So let's look into the other stream. Let's see if we can find anything related to that. So you see here, buffer2 file is declared. So let's start up here and see what we can find. Oh, and yeah, here's the function buffer2 file. So the first thing it's doing is it's so it's here, it's saving it's getting the user's profile, and I'm not sure, is that the home directory? I think that might be the home directory of the user, but and then it's getting the home directory, what I believe is the home directory of the user, and then getting the name of an executable here. So the name of an executable file. And here we see what's known as obfuscation. So malware will use, so what obfuscation is essentially is it's a way of encoding data to make it difficult to read. And it's obfuscation is used for a few different reasons. One potential reason is to get around signature detection systems. That's a main reason that obfuscation is used. Another reason that obfuscation is often used is to make it more difficult for us to analyze it, and that will increase the time that the malware is out in the wild before someone is able to analyze it and figure out what it does, because then when someone is able to analyze it, then the malware, then they'll develop what are known as indicators of compromise for the malware. So they'll figure out like unique features of the malware, such as the domain names that it's calling out to, different functionalities of the malware. And then you can write IDS rules, and then these will detect the malware. So basically using obfuscation just makes it, takes it longer for an analyst to analyze malware and create signatures for that malware, which makes it the malware able to persist for a longer amount of time. So at this point, I do want to, well, first let's take a look here. So at this point, I think we should do a group, well, we could do like an exercise I want to do. So for about 10 minutes, I want you to maybe think about what these lines of code could be doing, like how this, so.
Hey, Odin,
Yeah, yes.
we're gonna maybe skip the live part just because we're kind of close on time.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
We're just
it
gonna
is
kind of
really
introduce
late.
just the whole idea of like analyzing stuff and in person, and we can maybe do some of the hands-on later on when people are more comfortable.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable. Yeah, so for now, I will just walk you through this part here. So first, so it's using the split command. So what split essentially does is it creates an array of, and then it uses the this sign here, so the ampersand sign, as a way to, this is where the array breaks. So this string, for example, if you look at this part here, it will, wherever there's an ampersand, it will convert that into an element of the array, essentially. So you just have, so it will convert it to an array and use this as where each, I guess, where each index, like where each index starts. And so that's what that will do. It will, so basically what that does at a high level is it will remove, it will create an array of these different elements, and then it will remove the ampersand signs. So the first step is of this deobfuscation is to remove all of these ampersand signs. And then here we're opening the other. So other is the location of this, this binary file. So we're writing to a binary file. And so we have open other. So it's opening this file here, the zx.exe file, which is saved to the user's home directory. This L-bound to U-bound is essentially Visual Basic's way of iterating throughout an array. So it will, this is the L-bound is the first element of the array, U-bound is the last element of the array. And so then this is doing here is cbyte is writing each of these bytes into a file. So this is written as hexadecimal, a hexadecimal value, and puts info. So puts is the result of removing all the ampersand signs. So then puts info, so it takes each element of the array. So each element of the array consists of these series of 2 of characters, and then it will XOR this with FF. So it will XOR B2 with FF and then A5 with FF. So let's take a look at that briefly. So we'll just copy some of this, and then we'll create a new file. And then so.
You do your word wrap.
Oh yeah, sure. So file. View, is it view? Yes,
Word
view
wrap.
and then. Okay. And then we can replace all the ampersand signs with just a space. And then if you want to XOR, there's a good tool out there called CyberChef. And So we'll just go there.
Chef, I think, was developed by UK's version of like the NSA.
Correct, yeah, it was developed by GCHQ, which is like the British intelligence agency. So Cyber Chef has like a lot of different types of encoding that you can either use to encode or decode a string of text. So here we're going to look for XOR. I'm not entirely sure what's. So you do XOR. Well, I'll try to figure that out later, but we can just use I'm just gonna show you something with the calculator. So we can go to programmer, and then if so we can look at these two files, these first two bytes here, B2 and then AF. So B2, if you XOR that.
Hey, Odin,
Yeah.
Evan wants to show something if he could.
Oh, yeah, sure. Right now or,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, sure. Yeah,
go
I'll
ahead, Evan.
stop sharing my screen. Oops.
Evan had written a Python script to deobfuscate this himself. He doesn't have it on his computer, but he's gonna pull up the blog, I think, and show you kind of how it's supposed to be.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great.
Sometimes if you're doing this type of thing and there's just one little teeny tiny thing wrong, then it just won't work. And it can be hard for people to find those little mistakes when they're under pressure. So this is,
So this is the output after my code was run. And so the way that the code worked, let me pull it up real quick for you guys. This is just a sample of it because having all those hex characters doesn't really make for nice code to read up on the screen. But so it will just loop through that code and do the Zoring solution itself. But this is kind of pre-processed. So I went ahead and plugged in the stuff and removed the ampersand. Wasn't having the best luck ever with removing the ampersand beforehand in Python. So I just decided to cut it out with some other code first and then just go from there. But as you can see, it takes that for loop and sees, I had to pre-program in something to see if it was at the beginning or else it wouldn't start because it goes off of white space. So if it recognizes white space, it just Zors, takes the next two characters and Zors them against that FF. And that's how that works. And then plugging the end hex from this into the CyberChef came out with that file output, which is an MZ file. So it's an executable. And Odin, you can talk more about the MZ files if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, sure. So MZ is like the magic number of an executable file. So in hex, that will be 4D5A. And so that will indicate to us that this is the PE file format. So let me share my screen again. Or are you all done with your
Yeah,
demo?
Kayla, you're
demo?
good.
Okay. All right, so for that, we'll look a little bit into well, actually, first, another thing I want to show you is looking at the debugger for Microsoft Word, which can also help you analyze macros. Fortunately, though, is not on your local VMs because Microsoft Word, since you need like a license to install that. So I am going to, I have another VM where I can show that to you though.
And I would try to go through this last part kind of quickly if you're able to.
Sure, yeah, when do we want to, like wrap the meeting up by, just so I know how time is going?
Probably as quickly as you can, I'd say.
Okay, so, do you want me to skip the part because I was gonna do like a little bit of dynamic analysis of the executable file. I didn't find much for that. Did you want me to look into that or skip that?
Whatever you want to do, it's up to you.
Okay, alrighty. So this is Microsoft Word's debugger. So this will allow you to debug VBA applications, or I mean VBA macros. So this is built into Microsoft Word. So just a couple of things. You can do F8 to step into. Or you can just click where you want to set a breakpoint, and then it will set a breakpoint there.
So that basically just means it's just running the macro and you can just stop it and investigate things.
Yes, that's correct. So, for example, I will set a breakpoint right here after the puts command is run. And then, so there's a breakpoint set right here. So I will press continue, which will run the macro until this breakpoint is reached. And then, so you see here, puts. So as I was talking about before with split, it will create an array on these bytes here, and use the ampersand as a delimiter. So you can see that here.
Oh, is that an executable down there?
Oh, sorry, what did you say?
An executable down there that we saw?
Yeah, so this here is writing all of this to an executable in this code here. So let me run. But the way that cbyte works, it's not actually saving it to a variable, it's writing it to this executable file here. So we won't actually see that in the debugger. Yeah. So the next thing that I want to look at is the executable file. I'll briefly go over this. So you can also, if you want to follow along, you can download that from the same drive that you got the other file, drive.malware.club, and then you would just extract this and use the same password as before, MALWRCLUB.
So basically the malware just goes and gets the executable written, and then now we're looking at the executable. So the malware is the primary delivery mechanism.
So the first thing that I like to do is use PE Studio. So PE Studio is a static analysis tool. It will look at the different sections of a file, and it generates potential malicious indicators. And it looks at like the imports and a lot of different things, which I'll show you. So you can see immediately, well, if you look at the sections, it has some unusual section names, UPX0, UPX1, and very high entropy. So normally, malicious programs will have normally, like a program will have an entropy usually below around 6. So what entropy is it's a measure of the randomness in a file. So just like, readable human, like readable language has patterns to it, and the same goes for code. So if it's compressed in some way, then it will be more random and won't have a particular pattern to it. And often malware will pack itself to make it more difficult to analyze, and among other reasons. But we'll get into more about packing in another lesson, another meeting. But here I just want to show here some of the indicators that you get. And suspicious entry point. First section is writable. References blacklisted libraries. So these are just libraries associated with malicious activity commonly. And this is also a sign that it's packed, because this is a virtual protect and virtual alloc are commonly associated with packed files.
Why are they associated with packed files?
So basically it's a way for, I believe for malware to like get import to like dynamically load imports. I believe it's a technique used to dynamically load imports. And in packed files, you have it so the imports have to be loaded dynamically. So these different functions are used to load imports dynamically, like load library A and get proc address are commonly associated with that.
And then the memory allocations are things where the unpacked could possibly go to.
So then to unpack the file, you can use one tool called.
I wouldn't show them that part now. I'd probably try to just wrap it up in 5 or 10 minutes. Or you can show them that tool. I'm sorry, I thought you were going to do the whole unpacking. I'll finish in like 5 or 10 minutes if you can.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll just show how to unpack the file, and then I think that will be good. So you see here that it identifies a packed file. So
could you define a packed file?
Yeah,
brief definition.
Sure. So a packed file is basically a file which there's a stub that there's a section that, so the file is basically encrypted. So there's what's called a stub, which encrypts the file. And when the malware loads, the stub will, it will run the stub, and then what the stub will do is it will decrypt the sections, and then it will, and then so the file will run in memory, but if you open it statically, it will look all compressed, but like when you actually run it dynamically, it will load the compressed, it will decompress everything and run.
So basically, like in simple terms, if it's something's packed and you try to load it into a tool, it just looks like a bunch of random bytes and there's no way to interpret it. So that when you unpack it, then it actually turns it into the actual hidden executable. So it's like an executable hiding inside of another executable.
So EXE PE is a tool that can identify signatures of thousands of different packers. So here you see that it has identified that this file is packed with UPX 3.91. And then it will give you information on how to unpack the file. So if you run this command, first you have to have UPX installed, but in Flare VM that comes installed.
So UPX is like one of the most common unpacking things. It's been around for like 20 years.
Okay, so the permission was denied because it's currently open in other programs, so I have to close those programs. Okay. And then we can open PE Studio again. And it will look different now that it's unpacked. So you see a lot more imports.
And the imports just basically being a lot of the different functions that are available to it.
And then you see here that these sections now are unpacked. So you can tell by, first of all, the entropy is normal. These would be normal values that you would see in a typical uncompressed program. So anything under 6 usually would generally indicate that it's unpacked.
Were you able to figure out the main thing that this particular malware executable does?
I looked at it on some dynamic analysis tools and there wasn't much information that it returned to me. So I have a feeling that maybe it's making use of some anti-analysis techniques, which is hiding the activity of what it's doing. But I think in future meetings, we will look more into different anti-analysis techniques and also look into more like static analysis with tools such as IDA Pro, and then we can actually get into the program and reverse it so we can figure out more of what it's doing. But for now, I think the main purpose was just to show you the VBA macros and things like that.
So do you have any final comments or final thoughts, Odin, or things that are going to be coming up for our next meeting is in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, that's the plan. So it's going to be the 15th of September and at 6 o'clock, same time. But no, I was just thinking maybe for the next meeting, we would probably maybe look at a couple of different delivery mechanisms and then probably wrap it up with delivery mechanisms so we can look more into probably different malware related tools and probably after that, I want to look at like some different malware in depth, like look at some analyze the actual malicious binaries and after that.
If anybody has any requests for different topics, just let Evan know or let Odin know. If people have something that they want to present in the future, just let some of the leadership know as well. And they
Yes.
also potentially could be looking for other club leaders, if people want to get more involved in Malware Club organization later on, just let them know. We can always vote somebody new to be another officer. Anybody have any comments or questions for any of the anybody here? We will say that some of this stuff can seem really daunting and hard to understand at first, but it is with anything new, if you just stick with it, then it'll slowly start to make more sense. And especially some of you who are in the earlier years of your academic career, as you progress further, other classes will expose you to more of this type of thing. And so that'll help for it to make more sense.
And thank you guys for coming, and I hope to see you at the next club meeting.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming. We hope to see you again.